Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm the Takanome, and welcome to my humble slice of the internet. That is my Twitch channel. And as I said that, I realized my username is Taka Reads here, and this is my second Twitch channel, actually. But nevertheless, I like the introduction of the Takonome. I've been doing it for 4 years, so here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Takonome, and welcome to my humble slice of the internet that is my Twitch channel. And welcome to the reading stream. How is everyone doing today? Hope you had a good week, maybe even a good day, and if not, maybe this reading stream could be a bit of a bright spot to your day. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room here. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. If you have a Valentine's or not have a Valentine's, I hope that this day was at least relaxing or nice or just fulfilling in some way in your life. And of course, if that has not been the case, maybe this reading stream could be that. Maybe this reading stream can be your Valentine. It's a suggestion, only a suggestion. But I do hope that everyone is doing well today. Tonight, we are going to continue reading Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith by Emily Thompson. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, why, Taka, I don't know who Emily Thompson is. Who, oh, who can this person be? Well, dear listener, allow me the opportunity to read you their bio. Emily Thompson is a non-binary author and artist originally from Northern California. Although they adore steampunk and all things Victoriana, they also write science fiction and fantasy. After studying film and animation in university, Emily changed to a Japanese language focus and studied in Tokyo. After receiving a language degree and spending a number of years abroad, they now live in Washington and spend most of their free time writing in coffee shops, painting, crocheting plushies, coding, and playing lots of cozy video games. That is our author for the evening. Before we continue, as always, we do news and updates for the channel. Well, first of all, I should, absolutely should, give everyone an apology for last week. I was not able to do the reading stream. And part of that was, well, I have a bit of a personal rule here. And that rule is on Saturdays, I try to keep it as open as possible so I know I will have the energy and the quote unquote vigor to do the reading stream for just to give a bit of insight for what it takes for me to do the reading stream anyway is not simply reading the book. It is doing your best to act out the roles in the book as well. So for long-time listeners, you'll know that I try to give everybody their own voice, whether it's just a regular normal voice like this, or I try to give a nice, beautiful girl sounding voice. I fail at that, but it's okay, we try. Or with its creatures and little goblins and things like that, we try to give them all different voices, especially if they're reoccurring characters, and keeping track of what was the inspiration for these voices. So there's the acting, there's keeping track of the voices, there's thinking on the fly sometimes of, okay, we just have a new character come into the story. I've never seen this character before. What type of voice do you think they have? So keeping track of voices, keeping track of what's happening in the story as well. And just being able to juggle back and forth So there's that part of the performance, but also as the narrator, it's not enough to just read read the story. The narrator has to feel as if he's also a bit involved as well. So when I do the reading streams, I want to make sure I have the energy that I can be animated or I can try to portray any emotions or feelings that these characters have. And also, I stand up the whole time. That's an hour and a half, roughly, of standing up. And then, of course, you're reading from a book. So it takes, it is surprising how much energy it can take to stand up and talk slash read for an hour and a half. Now, granted, it's not an hour and a half straight. It's not always a full hour and a half, but in total, at least an hour, let's say, of standing and talking together. And it can wear on you a bit. So Saturdays, I try to keep it free enough so that when evening comes, I have the energy I need to just go for it. Last Saturday, and I promise I'm getting to the end of this here. But last Saturday, Miss Taka wanted to go to, oh, what is it called? The Institute of Near East Studies? Institute of, I forgot the actual acronym, but Oriental Studies, or the Oriental Institute here in Chicago. And part of the reason why she wanted to go to this museum, well, one, we like the museum. It's a small museum. If you're in Chicago, you have the chance, look up the Oriental Institute. I believe that's the name of the institute. It's at the University of Chicago. And they have this little museum tucked away that not a lot of people seem to know about. And it is full of information about, I guess you could say, the Middle East, more like the Mesopotamia area, or I mean, really the Mesopotamia area. So, yeah, let's say Middle East. And you see like these ancient artifacts, and my favorite I mean, there's also a Pazuzu statue, but another one of my favorites is they have a actual Lamasa statue figure. So these things are huge. They're massive. They weigh who knows how much, and they're not going to leave this museum anytime soon. But you may have seen this before, a lion's body with a man's head or something like that. Those are lamasas. And they're supposed to be, if I remember correctly, they're guardians for like temples or buildings and such like that. It is an amazing museum if you have the chance to go see it. However, we went there because, as you may know, Miss Taka is an actual artist and author. Unlike myself, I'm a part time author anyway. She needed more details of what this museum looked like, how to move around in its space. She was basically doing research so that she could include it in her book. And then after that, we toured around the neighborhood and the surrounding areas because, well, we'll be moving soon, sometime this year, to a different place, same city, different place. And we want to see if that was an area we would actually like to live in. So once all that was said and done, when I made it back home, I was basically wiped, and I knew reading stream was not going to happen. I say all of that to say apologies, everyone, for no reading stream last week. And looking forward, I'm not sure. Things are trying to happen on Saturdays more than I want them to. But we will still strive to have the reading stream next Saturday as well. Additionally, Thursdays, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, is the Storycraft stream, where we take a stream to write a story out. Last story that we wrote, we actually got llama race betting in there. Did not know llama racing was a real thing and did not know that llama race betting was also a real thing, but they are, and they're now in my short story. So if you want to see crazy little hijinks like that, or just watch a story being crafted live with some preparation, not a lot of preparation, then join us Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, almost gave Central Time. And from Erudite, first, hello, Erudite. Second, hello. Glad you had a nice time. That museum sounds cool. It is a gym. It is one of those unknown gyms in Chicago. But Erudite, I hope that you're doing well as we get ready to read your book. Any other news? I do not think we have any other news at the moment. Oh, actually, this is my own little self promotion because I don't do a lot of self promotion here. But tomorrow on my Ream Stories account, there will be a new short story that I actually took the time to edit, as well as create an audio file for, as in an audiobook style file for the story. It seems weird to say audiobook when it's just one chapter. But if you're interested, check out my Ream Stories profile, where you will see that story starting tomorrow. And for a $3 subscription, you can listen to the audio. If you're thinking to yourself, Taka, times are hard. I don't have $3 a month for a subscription. That's okay, you're in luck. At the end of the month, that same audio will be available on YouTube for free. So there are multiple ways to listen to or read the things I write. And unless it's in book form, there's a good chance I'm not going to charge for it. So, with the exception of what's the word I'm looking for? The audio on Ream. But either or, I try to make it as available as I can until it goes into book form, then you have to pay. But that said, if you're interested, check out my profile at reamstories.com/LG Tucker. I believe I gave the right website. I want to say I did. You would think I've learned it by now. Okay. That is all of the news that I could think of for this channel and these streams. So we're going to go into our reading for the night. But before we do, we have a recap. So, what has been happening in the series as well as this story? Can you post the URL in chat? Actually, I can. Let me double check that I gave the right URL because I don't fully trust myself here. I did give the right one. Did I type it correctly? You know, copy and paste would have been a lot easier just throwing it out there. Let's see here. Dreamstories.com. Oh, you know, I gave the wrong. I'm glad Erudite asked to post the URL in chat because I gave the wrong profile. Which, honestly, this will make it easier. It is reamstories.com/LuviGT. That is my Ream profile page where you will find not only the stories I just told you about that have an accompanying audio file, but also the stories that we've been writing on the Storycraft stream on Thursdays. The Unfortunate Souls Who Met Agatha Spells. There we are. Recap for Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith. For most of his life, Twist had been alone. Orphaned as a baby, he would eventually repair clocks in a quiet, cozy shop in London. Thanks to his sight, his supernatural ability, he could repair just about anything simply by touching it to find what is broken. Unfortunately, this worked with people, thus making it virtually impossible for him to make physical contact with others. His life changed when a young woman requested his help to mend the mythical Clockwork Princess. Since then, he has discovered new worlds and made powerful friends and allies along the way. With his sky pirate friend Jonas and his wonderful clockwork fiancée Mira by his side, the world is a little easier to manage. It is not all fun and games, though. Dangerous and ancient forces wish to see his demise and will do anything to make it come true. Through the use of spells and wit, Twist and his friends have managed to avoid their grim fates. Until now. Even though Twist and his friends had achieved victory in their first battle against the Fae, victory was short lived. Aiden, head of the secret organization called the Rooks, ordered his agents to hunt and kill Twist and Jonas on sight. Seeking a safe harbor, Twist and his friends began their journey to Inari's island, home of the Kitsune. I am slightly afraid that I did not change the recap from last time, but I believe it still holds true. And before we start, there is something I just want to bring up, and I swear we will start because we definitely need to start. There is something that happened in book one of this series, and I can't give it away. And the reason why I can't give it away, even though it's in book one, is because it is rarely talked about in the series. I am wondering if Twist is going to be able to go through this entire series keeping this secret that he has not told anybody about. Which kudos to Twist. I don't know how many months for sure, how many years may have passed since he was sworn to secrecy about this thing that happened in book one. But he has kept it. And honestly, I am highly impressed. If I was a woman, I would totally try to marry him because, just the honor he has and being able to keep that secret, even when facing someone who could pick the secret out of his brain, almost literally, he managed to keep this secret. And Erudite wrote, shh, he's not supposed to talk about it. I agree. But I am curious if we're going to make it through the entire series without learning more about that secret. And that's all I will say. And if you want to know what this secret is and you don't know at all, go back to book one, Waking, read the story, and you will find out. Seriously, there's a lot in this series that we do not talk about that has happened. There's a lot. And I absolutely enjoy it. Ooh, that's hot. Okay. So we have our tea, we have our water, we have our book. Let's begin. This is Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith by Emily Thompson. Apologies, Emily Thompson. We are on page 232. Let's begin. By the time the coast of California vanished beyond the horizon and the Pacific Ocean filled the world below, all of the displaced Duchu had been delivered back to their village by the Kitsune, except for Kima's father, who still remained aboard. He and Kima shared a short talk in their language, which made her seem happy and made him look somewhat wistful. Eventually, he turned to Pamut as well, patted the boy on the head, told him to be good, and said that Pamut would forever be welcome in his home village. Pamut took this without complaint, but also without much emotion. Twist could only smile at this, realizing he'd felt much the same way about his own village with the gypsies in France. Even if it was logically his home, it certainly didn't feel like it. Once all of Polygon's goodbyes and thanks had been given, he finally took Rafe's hand and they both vanished with a popping sound. The rest of the Kitsune had already disappeared, leaving Inari alone aboard with Vane. Apologies. You alright? Jonas asked Kima once her father departed. She smiled back to him and nodded. Yes, I'm happy. The village is better off now that it's been in years. The ciphers are gone, and my people know better than to trust the magpies. They're also not useful to magpies at all, so they might just be left alone. My people might actually be able to heal now. Well, if anyone deserves it, it's definitely them, Jonas said. Rafe appeared alone. Well, that's that. Thank you, sweetie, Inardi said to him. And thank you as well for this, she said to Pamut, looking over the sketch that he had given her of the fairy invisibility charm design. I'm sure my craftsmen can make this quickly. At this speed, you should reach my island in time for dinner, she told the others. Consider yourselves invited. Thank you, Mira said instantly. Twist likes your food very much. Oh, yes, Twist admitted with a nod. How nice, Inardi said with another flawless smile. Then I will see you when you arrive. Vane and Rafe wished her farewells, despite the short wait to see her again, and Inardi disappeared without the slightest sound. The moment she was gone, however, Vane gave a blissful sigh and held up the charm that hung around his neck to gaze at it lovingly. She loves me too, you know, Rafe pointed out with a smirk, admiring his own red-stained charm. Yeah, but she also loves me, Vane replied, still giddy with excitement. Well, that's going to get old, Jonas grumbled. Twist shot him a knowing glance. I'm very happy for you, Vane, Twist offered. Thanks, Twisty, Vane replied, looking touched by the unexpected comment. Twist paused, realizing that, this time, the pet name didn't really annoy him as much as it had in the past. Was he growing used to it? Or, more likely, was his own coldness toward Vane falling away now that the Kitsune was no longer any sort of threat? As Twist pondered his new feelings toward the fox, Vane's expression grew curious. Twisty? He asked hesitantly. Are we friends now, you and I? A silence fell in the wake of the question as everyone on board looked to Twist to hear the answer. Twist's fingers found the hard line on the back of his right hand where Vane's sword had caught him just months ago. At one time, he thought of Vane as purely an adversary, a danger, and a highly confusing and difficult person. But now, after all he'd done for Twist and Jonas, not the least of which included protecting them from dragons and recently taking a bullet for Twist, he could only be a friend. Twist looked back at him, strangely confident. You're no longer the man I met in Hong Kong, and we've been through a great deal together. So yes, today I believe you're my friend. Vane smiled at this and balled his hands into a fist. Well, I'd really like to hug you, but I won't. Twist. Jonas nearly. Twist. Oh, wow. Apologies, everyone. Let's start that paragraph over. Jonas nearly didn't catch his laughter in time. See? He said, his voice still quaking with buried giggles. Why, if that isn't progress, I don't know what is. Thank you, Vane, Twist said, struggling to keep himself from tossing the back of his hand at Jonas. To Twist's great relief, however, the crew then collectively decided to take the short amount of time they had before reaching the flying island for themselves. Tasha went to the cabin she and Nico had been sharing to listen in on Rook broadcast through her talking pocket watch. Pamut mentioned he was hungry, and Mira offered to make him a snack. The two Kisades switched into their fox form and lazed about in a wide patch of sunlight, looking as at ease as two foxes could be. Twist stole away to his cabin, determined to read something before the day was out. He sat against the headboard of his bed, placing a pillow behind his back, and reached for his book. Twist paused, his hand on the cover. The room was silent around him except for the soft sounds of Mira and Pamut speaking in the kitchen below. He couldn't hear a word either of them said, but recognized the temper of their voices. He closed his eyes and let that deep, luxurious quiet soak into him like tropical sunlight. The idea of doing anything other than sitting still, calm, and quiet seemed absurd, so he left the book lying closed on his bed and instead leaned back and did nothing but listen. No one wanted to speak to him. No one wanted his attention. He wasn't under attack and had no cause to look out for one. He could feel the airship dip and shift gently on the wind, but the movements were so small that he couldn't even feel them if he wasn't trying to. He could only feel the buzzing at his neck, purring smooth and dim, as Jonas was at a fair distance, probably on the bridge. The sounds from the kitchen below were as soft as the babbling of a stream. Twist remained in the delicious quiet for as long as he could, never opening his eyes or moving at all. His breath grew deeper on his own, and his heartbeat stayed as steady as the soft ticking of his pocket watch. Eventually, the buzzing at his neck started to change and grow stronger as Jonas went through some machinations and then moved about the ship. He wasn't surprised when, after having felt him approach, he heard the distinctive tone of Jonas's voice in the kitchen. Jonas's emotions seemed to be turbulent but not distressed. And as long as he wasn't coming to Twist's door, Twist could remain where he was, calm, quiet, and luxuriously alone. It was Mira who eventually ended Twist's solitude by opening the cabin door and stepping inside. Oh, she gasped, a wide and slightly nervous look on her face when he opened his eyes. Were you sleeping, dear? No, just resting, Twist replied, sitting up properly and turning to put his pillow where it belonged. He offered her a smile, but she remained near the still open door, and that nervous edge to her excited and almost manic glee still hadn't changed at all. Has something happened? Twist asked. Oh, yes, Mira said, her eyes alight. Twist forced himself not to sigh in mourning for his calm. Oh, is there anything I ought to do about it? Not you, so much, no, Mira said, her grin still wide despite her trying to show other, more nonchalant emotions through it. She remained quiet a moment longer, possibly picking her words or possibly just musing. Twist frowned. Do you want me to guess, or? Mira laughed, hiding it behind a hand while her eyes sparkled. I'm sorry, darling, she said. She began, as Twist felt Jonas approaching fast up the stairs. It's just. Jonas reached the doorway swiftly, giving Mira a bit of a start, although she continued to smile as she stepped farther into the room to let him enter. Twist looked at Jonas questioningly, noting the very unusual silver white color of his eyes and the chaos of emotions that murmured remarkably softly in the buzzing at his own neck. Before Jonas could speak, Another voice called up from the hallway below.
Hey, Dad!
Pumut's voice called in a delighted tone. Jonas froze, his face flashing with alarm, while a surge of energy rushed so strongly and so suddenly through the buzzing at Twist's neck that he winced against it. Yes? Jonas replied over his shoulder.
Oh, nothing.
Pumut called back, clearly moving away.
Just wanted to try it out.
Kima's chuckling wafted in through the door. All right then, Jonas replied through a tight jaw. When it was clear that the boy wanted nothing else from him, Jonas shut the door swiftly but carefully, trying not to make a sound. Mira stared at Jonas as if he were about to perform a wonderful trick. Twist realized his mouth was still gaping and closed it. What? Was all Twist managed to utter out of his many questions. I need your help, Twist, Jonas said, looking like he might faint. He turned from the door and met Twist's gaze, his emotions pressing gently against Twist's sight with the look. I need to just stare at you for a bit. Is that all right? Certainly, Twist said, gesturing submissively. Feel free, old boy. Jonas let out a relieved sounding breath as he sat down beside Twist on the bed and turned to face him. Twist stared back at his friend, knowing full well that doing so was just as soothing to Jonas's sight as Jonas's touch was to Twist. It had, however, been rather a long time since Jonas had last asked for this favor, and Twist had only seen his eyes go white once before, when Jonas had a vision of hearing his future daughter call out to him, just as Pabut had. But in just a short time, Twist saw a pale green begin to bleed into his eyes, and Jonas took a deep breath. Should I go? Mira asked, gently pointing to the door. Twist glanced to her, realizing how very odd he and Jonas just staring at each other must look to anyone else. So you can gossip. Oh wow. Apologies, everyone. So you can go gossip and spread all sorts of rumors? Jonas asked back. No, thank you. Mira let out a single offended sound. Now, Twist admonished Jonas gently. If you feel the need to lash out at anyone, I appreciate if you only lash out at me. Jonas closed his eyes and took a steadying breath. Sorry. Mira, looking at Jonas knowingly now, seemed to accept this. Thank you, Twist said, reaching out to give his friend's shoulder an encouraging pat. Now, what the bloody hell did I just miss? Jonas gave him a tired smile, meeting his gaze again with faintly green eyes. Well, Kima thought we ought to talk about Pamut. She's gone into her head that I somehow understand the boy better than she does, and that he knows it too. I mean, she's his mother, but whatever. Anyway, we both agreed that we can't let him keep trying to play us off of each other to get what he wants all the time, but then Jonas's words trailed off, and his eyes lost their color again. Why don't I save you some trouble and make a wild guess? Twist offered. Apprehension rose sharply in the buzzing at Twist's neck, but Jonas waited to hear Twist's guess nonetheless. Twist found he was surprised by the words himself, and it took a moment for him to voice them. Have you just, in a way, adopted the boy? Jonas looked slightly ill, but he nodded slowly. Kima says she wants me to help, and I mean, really help. If she and I don't agree on something, she wants us to talk it out before we give Pambut an answer. She wants me to help her make decisions about him and be a real part of his life. And you didn't refuse, Twist said, his own pride in his friend growing quickly. Jonas shook his head, appearing perfectly astonished by his own decision. Mira giggled softly again, calling Twist to notice that she was still in the room, sitting in the chair by the dressing table and watching them intently. Well, Twist said, finding it difficult not to grin, I've always said you were braver than me. Jonas's eyes took on a bit more color as he smiled back at Twist for that. So, Twist went on, I see you told the boy about all this. Yeah, Jonas scoffed. The first thing out of his mouth was, Can I call you Dad now? As if I could say no to that. I never seen him look so happy, Jonas continued, his eyes shifting suddenly into a deep, rich sapphire blue as the thought rose in his mind. It was really hard to keep from catching his eye. What a tremendous compliment, Twist observed, finding it hard to imagine what it might be like. Jonas shook his head, amazed once again. I really have no idea what I'm doing. That's all right, Twist said, patting his shoulder again. I'm sure that's perfectly normal. You'll learn as you go. Just tell me this. Does any part of you want to change your mind? Jonas took a moment to respond, his eyes staying blue as he stared into space and thought about it. No, he answered finally, seeming far more stable when he looked back to Twist. Then you made the right decision, Twist said with conviction, and I'm very proud of you for it. Twist saw the effect of his words strike Jonas and embolden him, but then Jonas's face shifted suddenly to a worried frown. Wait, Jonas said, his voice sounding like his usual tone once again. Does this mean I have to stop being a no-good scoundrel of a pirate cur? Certainly not, Twist said without hesitation. Plenty of fathers are simply dreadful people. Mothers, too, or so I hear. You'll do just fine, I'm sure. While Mira gaped in horror at Twist's reply, Jonas gave every evidence of great relief. Thank heaven for that, Jonas said earnestly. I've never been a good man in my life. I wouldn't know where to begin. However, Twist said, forcing his face to stop smiling so that he might mimic a thoughtful frown. If you were to go off and get yourself a steady job in a nice house, a flicker of fear appeared on Jonas's face, causing Twist to drag out the pause between words, just for comedic effect. I would flat out disown you. Jonas laughed, just as Twist had intended, a great deal of his tension breaking with the sound. Twist couldn't help but join him despite the vulgarity of laughing at one's own joke. Now that the shock was starting to wear off, Jonas's joy at his news station and his new title was starting to warm him all the way through. You two are very odd, Mira observed, once they had both managed to catch their breath. Am I the only one who finds this all terribly exciting and wonderful? No, you're not, Jonas said, turning to speak to her as well as Twist. Pamba seems to be over the bloody moon. Twist chuckled at this, knowing that Jonas was starting to feel that way as well. Well, Mira said, looking a bit disappointed with both of them. I'm sure Vane and Rafe would like to enjoy this news with me. Is that some kind of threat? Jonas asked back, startled. Before Mira could answer, there was a knock on the cabin door. Mira opened it to reveal Pamba standing on the other side, smiling brightly. Oh, hi, he said to Mira before looking to Jonas. Hey, Dad? Yes, Jonas replied, the effect of the title only slightly diminished from the last time the boy had used it. We're getting close to the island now. Oh, right, Jonas said, getting to his feet. We're going somewhere, and just about everyone wants to kill us. I forgot for a second there. Twist chuckled to himself as he followed after Jonas and Pamut. He paused, however, putting a hand on Mira's arm to slow her as they started down the hallway. She stopped and looked to him questioningly. Once Jonas and Pamut had moved farther away, Twist leaned closer to whisper to Mira. I was trying to make the poor man feel better, he explained quickly. But I really find this all simply amazing. Isn't it though? Mira whispered gleefully. I so hope that something like this might happen. I just don't understand why Jonas isn't happy about it, she added, frowning at Jonas's back. Oh, I'm sure he is, Twist assured her. He's just not showing it because he's Jonas. Jonas stopped at the door to the deck and glared back at Twist and Mira. Twist, come along and stop gossiping, or we'll crash into the bloody island at full speed. Coming, Twist answered, hurrying to catch up. That was that was a meaty chapter there. But we are going to take a chapter break here. Everyone, I want to thank you for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD, which, for those who do not know, I do post the VOD on YouTube a day or two after it streams on Twitch. So if you ever think, oh boy, I want to listen to this again, go to my YouTube channel, Taka Reads, and you will find this on, well, I guess it's the restream. I don't know if you count it a restream or just the VOD. It will be the Twitch VOD on YouTube. But I do appreciate everyone who is here, whether you're listening live or listening to the VOD. I hope that you are enjoying the story as well as the reading of this story. Mm. I know it took about 20 minutes to finally get into the reading stream proper, so I haven't really had time to take a sip of my tea here. Mm. Oh, that is delicious. It's not criminally delicious, but it is still delicious. What tea are you drinking, Taka? I can hear you asking now. Well, this tea is called caramel apple, and the ingredients for this tea is black tea, apple, natural caramel, and apple flavoring. Actually, I'm going to take another sip here. It's nice. Mm. And I can hear it now from the rooftops, from the heavens. You're asking, Taka, where can I find delicious tea that you drink on every reading stream? Well, dear listener, there is a place. There's a place that you can get your tea fix, a place that will give you the most wonderful of teas, a place that is quite dear to this channel, a place that will be dear to your heart, a place in Seattle, Washington, a place known as Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. That's right. It is time for our not promotional. I promise it's not a promotion, but it is a promotion because I'm promoting it, but it's not paid promotion. Promotion, sponsorship. That's not a sponsorship because I forgot the S word, sponsor. Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. If you go to their website, www.fridaytea.com, you will find a wide variety of teas that I know will tickle your fancy. Tonight, allow me to tell you about the Sugar Plum Fairy, and oh, not the Nutcracker Sugar Plum Fairy, but the tea Sugar Plum Fairy. It is part of the winter seasonal collection, which means it is available now. Apologies, I had a burp there. It is available now until March 3rd. And March 3rd is around the corner. It's just 2 weekends away. After 2 weekends, March 3rd is here, and this tea will not be available. So, if what I read to you sounds like your cup of tea, literally, hop on fridaytea.com and order the Sugar Plum Fairy. But the description goes as thus. Debuting on day 14 of our first ever tea advent calendar, this elegant beauty, get it, tea, dances across the tongue in inspiring daydreams. A rich melody of black walnut and sweet raspberry harmonizes stunningly with a bouquet of fragrant spices for a vision of holiday spirit you'll return to year after year. Ingredients: black tea, white tea, cinnamon, cardamom, clove, rainbow sugar, there's an asterisk there, natural raspberry, and walnut flavoring. Now, what's this rainbow sugar made from? It is not sugar from a literal rainbow. Instead, it contains sugar, FDC yellow number 5, yellow number 6, blue number 1, red number 3, red number 40, like maltodextrin, and carnauba wax. And we have two reviews here, both 5 stars. The first review I'm going to read was from the very last day of last year. So December 31st of 2025. And this person wrote, this tea has a very mellow flavor, not bitter at all. The real star of the show is the tart raspberry aftertaste that mingles with warm spices, which make it really live up to its name. Amazing tea. And from December of 2023, 5 stars, holiday season in a cup. This tea smells so good and has the depth of flavors to match. I especially like the cardamom pods and raspberry notes. It is my solid favorite in 2023 tea advent calendar so far. Now, if this tea sounds delicious to you, again, you could find it at www.fridaytea.com. Again, the website is www.friday, like the day, and tea, like the drink, .com. And again, I am not paid to do this. I am not coerced to do this. There is no blackmailing, there is no bribing, there is no quid pro quo. They do not hold my cats, Momo and Appa, hostage and saying, if you ever want to see your cats again, you have to talk about our teas, or else they get the catnip. No, no, nothing of that nature. Although they might like the catnip. I guess they'll get the holes? I don't know. I think cats don't like, well, our cats kind of like water. Anyway, what I'm saying is I just enjoy their teas. In fact, I am looking at a package of Anansi's web that I haven't opened yet, and I am looking forward to it. I'm saving it for the right occasion here. Just like my Fairy Queen, which actually I might break into that soon. Mm. But the caramel apple is really good. Mm. Once again, I do want to thank you all for joining the stream. And if you are liking this story, but you're thinking, boy, I wish I knew what happened in the beginning or what happened that led up to all of this. This is certainly exciting, but I'm a little lost. What exactly is a sight? Why does Jonas not look at people? Why does Twitch not like to be touched, except for by Jonas? Or why Jonas can't look at anyone in the eyes, except for Twist? Things like that. What exactly is a Mira? Why did Vane and Twist get into a fight? Who are the Duchu? Who are the ciphers? Who are the rooks? There are a lot of elements in this story that is introduced in the earlier books. So, if you're curious about it, want to know more about them, consider supporting the author. You can buy their books on Amazon.com, and an exclusive insider tip, if you will, I have word, good authority, one would say, and the author can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have it on good authority that on the author's Royal Road profile page, they will actually begin posting pages from this story. So, this story in particular, what I'm saying is, if you enjoyed the story, if you want to know more about what's going on, consider supporting the author either through buying their books on Amazon or checking out their Royal Road profile page. I know me personally, I'm happy that this time around, the first time I started reading the series, I read it through ebook and I made it all the way through book 5 before life. And I am so happy and pleased that I was able to come back and have the means to do so to buy the entire collection. I literally have all 12 books in the series, and honestly, worth it. So, if you like a good story, you want something nice and fun and not too heavy, and it still makes you feel something, please support the author. Let's take a look here. With the time we have and the energy levels, we are going to try for 2 more chapters here. And I'm looking at where we are in the book. We are approaching the end of the book. I believe after today, we'll have maybe 2 to 3 more sessions for this book before it's time to switch to a different book. I need to actually get this in the works, but I believe we may have a new author for our next book. We shall see. We shall see. And we also have poetry night. We haven't done poetry night in quite some time, and I believe the last time we were going to do poetry night, it was superseded by Halloween, so we had to do Edgar Allan Poe night. But we also had viewer listener submitted artwork as well. So we read some short stories from you, the listener. And I would like to do that again for a different day, maybe not just Halloween, but maybe seeing if we can make that something that's more reoccurring, I should say. But as I've said before, all of this, the streaming, the reading, all of it, is a hobby. I have fun doing it. Well, maybe except for the writing. The writing part, not so much hobby. But as far as doing the reading stream and sharing these, I have fun doing it. I find it as a nice little break from normal life, and it's fun to do. So, if we could do a reoccurring theme of having other people submit stories and we read it on the reading stream, I think that would be fun. But that said, brainstorming done now, let's go back to our story. Looking out through the windows at the front of the bridge, Twist saw a thick, billowing, mountainous expanse of cloud before them. This seemed odd, as the rest of the sky was clear and blue, while the endless Pacific sparkled in the late afternoon light. Are you sure it's in there? Jonas asked Rafe, who stood with him at the helm. Vane and Twist, who also stood by on the bridge, both looked to Jonas in alarm on hearing that his powerful eyes couldn't see past the clouds.
Oh, yes, it's there.
Rafe said.
You're headed right for it.
You really can't see it? Twist asked, aghast.
You?
All I see is cloud, Jonas answered, sounding rather uncomfortable as well.
Wow.
Vane remarked.
What's that like for you, Johnny? When's the last time you couldn't see something?
I can't remember, Jonas grumbled. How close is it? He asked Rafe.
We should probably slow down,
Rafe answered.
it's coming on fast.
Right, Twist said, turning for the stairs. He brought the airship's speed down to half, making the transition as smooth as he could. Through the porthole windows in the lower level of the bridge, he saw the white mist engulf them, and he tried to look again through the one at the very front. The clouds before them seemed endless and opaque for a long moment before they suddenly thinned. A ripple of shock washed through the buzzing at Twist's neck at the same moment. In the space of a few seconds, the air right before the airship opened up into a sort of clearing. The blue sky reappeared above a deep gorge like valley in the thick white clouds, and sitting in the center, like an oasis of color in the white, was the wide, forest ringed island. Twist instantly recognized the pretty city of red buildings nestled into shallow grassy knolls, soft green fields, and smooth pale sand cut through with tiny glittering streams.
Do you see it now?
Vane asked Jonas up above. Now I do, Jonas replied, as Twist felt the airship turn and point more directly toward the simple looking wooden dock that reached out from the edge of the island into the clouds. Twist, drop the speed down to a quarter. Just a moment, Twist answered, returning to the control at the back of the room. It took little time at all for Jonas to get the airship onto the right course, and soon he asked for the speed to be cut completely. The engines complained against this, filling Twist's sight with impatience. He patted at the control, certain that another quick escape and long flight was more likely than not, knowing his life. That's got to be some powerful magic, Jonas remarked as Twist ascended the stairs to join them. I've never seen anything else that could hide from me in a cloud. Well, except for Storm, actually. But that was different. I mean, this still just looks like real cloud, he added, glancing out at the fluffy white mist beyond the bow.
Inari is wonderful.
Rafe said simply. Vane nodded. Jonas smiled at Rafe. Well, if she can hide her island from me, then the rooks don't stand a chance. We're as good as non existent. A deeply relieved breath left Twist as he felt his own spirit instantly relax at this idea.
Come along, boys,
Vane said happily.
dinner must be waiting.
Inardi stood on the shore, near the dock, waiting for them as Twist and his crew disembarked. Twist tried to ignore the fact that the pylons at the edge of the long wooden dock stood upon nothing at all and got himself onto the seeming solid, sandy ground of the shore as quickly as possible. The others followed behind him, clearly having no trouble with their precarious position. Welcome to my island, Inardi said sweetly. The meal is nearly ready if you're hungry. We've set out places for each of you. Vane gave a happy sound and clapped his hands, while Mira and a few of the others offered a polite thank you. Pumut, however, stared around at the edge of the dense, verdant forest. Some of the village inside was visible through the arbored opening near the deck. Apologies, near the dock, in the deep valley of clouds around them. Careful, Kima cautioned, taking his hand as he wandered close to the edge of the dock while looking everywhere but at his path. Sorry, he muttered distantly. This place is amazing. That's high praise coming from him, Jonas told Inardi as he met Twist on the shore. That boy is more accustomed to amazing things than he is to ordinary ones. Now that he felt solid, seeming ground beneath his feet, Twist began to calm down again. Inardi smiled at Jonas for the explanation and looked to Pamut. This isn't the sort of magic you're used to, is it? No, not at all, he answered, wide eyed. Does it make you uncomfortable? Inardi asked while Kima, Pamut, and the rest of the crew reached the shore. No, no, Pamut answered, shaking his head. It's all, well, it's very pretty magic, and it smells really nice. Thank you, Inardi said, looking honestly flattered. Twist reflexively looked away before the stunning beauty of her smile could affect him. Inardi led them through the opening in the trees and into the wide, unreasonably pristine and aesthetically flawless little village. Tall, narrow towers of red columns and curving black roofs stood at the edges of the open center of the village, where the soft grassy knolls, curving sandy paths, little streams, and shallow arched bridges lay so perfectly together that every single spot looked worthy of a painting. The sunlight was warm and brilliant, making all the colors as rich and full as the sudden sunlight after a rain. The air was sweet and delightfully cool, and played gently at Twist's skin like the caress of a lover's fingertips. Twist felt his own spirit ease deeper with every step as Inardi led them into the dreamlike village. A relatively large patch of flat grass near the center was now covered in rows of small, single person, short black tables under the soft shade of gently rustling trees filled with tiny white blossoms. Many people in colorful, patterned Japanese style cotton robes, each person bearing at least two, but sometimes as many as four furry foxtails, already were seated, while others placed a collection of little dishes of food on each table. Twist and his companions were shown to an empty batch of little black tables, two rows set facing each other on the grass to one side. They all sat either cross legged or kneeling at a table each, except for Mira, who simply sat beside Twist. Twist eagerly examined the offerings in their separate and decorative little dishes. Among the items he could easily identify, there was a perfectly shaped slice of grilled fish, a collection of enticing looking vegetables and various light sauces, small chunks of something breaded and crispy, one small bowl of cloudy soup, and another full of a flawless mound of soft, sticky white rice.
Do you like tea?
Someone asked. Twist looked up to find a girl with brilliant blue eyes and bright red hair edged with white around her face, kneeling beside him with a porcelain teapot. Yes, please, Twist said quickly, finding his small, handless teacup sitting in the corner of his table. While he held the cup for her, the girl filled it with a bright green, fragrant tea and then turned to offer tea to Jonas as well. When she turned, Twist found three red, white tipped tails behind her, and they seemed to be wagging happily. As the Kitsune girl moved on to attend to Kima's tea, Jonas asked Twist, Do you think you remember how to use these? He held up two long, thin sticks poised between his fingers. Oh, Twist gasped, remembering the difficulty he had with these Kitsune preferred style of cutlery. Sure enough, there was no fork, knife, nor spoon on his table, but there were two matching sticks. Twist picked them up and tried to remember how he was supposed to hold them.
Here, there.
Mira said, taking his hand and fitting the sticks between his fingers for him.
Wasn't it like this? I suppose we could snatch up some forks from the airship.
Vane mentioned, seated across from Twist at his own table. He was already plucking a lump of rice out of his bowl with his own sticks.
Oh,
Rafe muttered, sitting at the table beside his. Twist glanced over at the others, finding Kiba and Puma both holding their sticks, one in each hand, and looking dubious. Tasha and Nico, however, seemed perfectly at ease and were already eating as skillfully as the kitsune around them. Is there something wrong with eating with your hands? Kima asked Jonas, sounding tired already. I mean, forks are fine, but sometimes there's too many, and now there's none at all. It all seems very complicated, and I don't see the point. Jonas clearly had great difficulty containing his chuckling, and so took a moment to answer her. Well, Spotted Love, you eat however the hell you want to, and don't let anyone look down on you for doing so. Kiba smiled at this, seeming rather relieved, although by the look on her face it was obvious that Tasha clearly didn't agree. She didn't offer any argument. When no one else did either, both Kima and Puma put their sticks back down and set to work eating with their fingers and occasionally skewing bits with a single stick. Twist gave his own sticks a thoughtful frown and then put them down as well.
But you did it last time,
Mira protested. And it took me nearly an hour to finish my meal. Twist grumbled back. If it's good enough for Kiba, it's good enough for me, he added before plucking a slice of carrot off his plate with his fingers and popping it into his mouth. Kimba shot Twist a grin, and for a moment they were of perfectly like minds. Twist smiled as well, finding it rather pleasant to no longer have any cause to be cross with her. After all, she not only apologized to Jonas for her harsh words, but she also made amends by inviting him into her son's life. Now that he looked for it, Twist saw nothing but warmth and friendship between Jonas and Kima now. As they all enjoyed their meal in each other's company, Twist watched his entire crew ease into a relaxed and playful mood. By the time the sky darkened and the light turned golden and oblique into twilight, Twist began to forget all about the dangers surrounding them. For now, they were as safe as could be, invisible to the Fae and to men, together and happy. We're going to take a chapter break. This is the part of the stream where I can definitely feel my feet going a little sore. That is how I know that it's almost time for the end of the reading stream. Mm. Once again, I do want to thank you all for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD. I also appreciate all of the support that you give these channels of mine, whether it's the Twitch or YouTube channels. And again, the support could be simply just tuning in and listening or liking. I can't say subscribe because we don't have that function right now, but liking or following or any other type of engagement you can do with the channels. But honestly, just tuning in, telling friends and family, I believe that does a lot more than, well, I don't want to say it does a lot more than simply liking or following the channels, but honestly, I believe it probably has more value. That's my opinion. So if you just tune in and listen or have it play in the background as you, I don't know, maybe fold laundry or take a nice bubble bath, although I don't know who would listen to this while taking a nice bubble bath, but if you are, kudos. Either way, thank you so much for supporting these channels. How would it to take how odd would it be if someone was taking a bubble bath and I said that? Would they think I'm spying on them? And if you do think that, rest assured I'm definitely not spying on you that I know of. We have one more chapter to go for the evening. I would like to say I enjoy the sound of a book where you flip through it quickly. It just sounds so nice. But I am getting away from myself here. So with that, we are going to go into the final chapter of the evening. Going to take one more sip of tea here. That was a big sip. All right. Final chapter of the evening. After the meal was finished, the tables were cleared away, and some of the Kisune drifted off to their own business. Some, however, changed into their fox forms and lazed about in the soft grass or chased after each other in the clearing, playing like puppies. Vane and Rafe follow suit, both changing into their fox forms and lazing together in the soft grass. Twist and the rest of his crew remained as they were, chatting idly while a sense of ease soaked visibly into each one of them. Rafe appeared to be perfectly content to nap in the grass, but it didn't take long at all before Vane stepped closer to Jonas on his paws. What? Jonas asked the little black fox sharply, as Vane stared back at him with sheepish hope. Rafe's head lifted as he watched them, the gray tips of his rusty tails twitching idly. Jonas's hand Jonas's hand was resting on his own knee as he sat cross-legged in the grass. Vane moved slowly, nudging Jonas's hand with his pointed nose, his huge black eyes watching Jonas's reaction intently. Jonas pulled his hand slightly away with a scowl. Are you seriously asking me to pet you? Vane's ears perked up swiftly and his tails wagged together. Jonas gave a sigh. You're so weird, Jonas grumbled, before reaching out to stroke at the fox's furry brow. Vane moved instantly, perching his forepaws on Jonas's knee to better enjoy the attention. All right, Jonas said, sounding rather put out, despite his new smile, as he continued to stroke Vane's furry neck. But if you lick me, this stops. Sorry. Got it? Vane gave a happy sounding, short cry and made no attempt to lick him.
Rafe, sweetheart,
Mira asked coyly of the other fox in their company. Rafe looked at Mira, otherwise unmoving.
that looks nice.
She said with a nod to Jonas.
Can I pet you?
Twist was rather startled to hear her make this request, but Rafe jumped to his paws in an instant and hurried closer to Mira. He propped his pointed chin. That's correct. He propped his pointed chin on her knee and seemed very pleased as Mira cooed adoringly and stroked his fur.
Are they just adorable like this?
Mira said to Twist while she scratched at Rafe's large, rusty gray furred ear. Twist looked back at the fox on Mira's knee. Although he acknowledged that the little furry little woodland creature did look rather sweet indeed, it was difficult for Twist to forget that it was also Rafe, and perfectly capable of understanding everything they said. Twist also failed, no matter how hard he tried, to stop himself from imagining Rafe laying his head on Mira's knee in his human form. Mira, however, obviously found nothing untoward in any of this. Rather than speak his true mind, Twist offered Mira a non-committal tone. Jonas chuckled, and when Twist glanced to him, he found a knowing grin on his friend's face. Twist replied with a sour look but tried to stop being jealous anyway.
Oh my?
Tasha mentioned. There were a number of other foxes approaching them now. Each fox picked one person or another and stared at them with big, shining, hopeful eyes while their many tails wagged. Before Twist knew it, everyone around him was petting at least one kitsune. Pamut and Tasha had both been approached by a pair each. Kima cooed softly to the gray and white fox that sat beside her, while it enjoyed her gently scratching his ear. Even Nico smiled as he stroked a pretty red fox with three tails. Pamut's giggle drew Twist's attention to find one fox was standing up by the boy's leg to lick at his chin. Ooh, that was a powerful one. Pamut's giggle drew Twist's attention to find that one fox was standing up on the boy's leg to lick at his chin, while Pamut did little at all to push it away. One white fox with brilliant emerald eyes approached Twist as well.
No, thank you.
Twist muttered quickly before the white fox came too close. The fox stopped and looked back to him, its ears drooping and its eyes deeply saddened. Twist, seeing the fox's distress, felt his heart beat quickly with fright.
I'm sorry.
Twist said earnestly.
I don't mean to offend you.
He added, struggling through the oddness of speaking rationally to a fox.
I just can't touch people.
Oh, that's right, Inari said gently, appearing suddenly just beyond Twist's range of vision. She stepped closer and took the white fox up into her arms before kneeling down among Twist and his companions. Please, no one touch Twist, she said sweetly to the foxes around her. His sight troubles him. The white fox seemed happy enough now that it was nestled in Inari's arms and being petted by her. Another three of the remaining foxes moved closer to her as well, lying close beside her whenever they found the space. Did you enjoy the meal? Inari asked Twist and the others. Yes, thank you, Tasha answered, petting at her foxes while the others nodded in reply to Inari. It was lovely. I'm glad, Inari said. Twist was grateful that she was sitting beside him so that looking directly at her breathtaking smile by mistake wasn't as easy. Well, as I told Rafe when he came to tell me of your troubles, Inari began, you are all welcome to stay until you can find a solution to your situation. No human magic can combat mine, except for maybe yours, of course, she added to Pamut. But then, you don't really use human magic, do you? Pamut, his fox now snuggling in his arms, gave a derisive chuckle and shook his head.
Human magic is for babies.
While Twist's own mother and grandmother used a great deal of fey magic, he instantly recalled the witchcraft he had seen his friend Ozzy use, and it certainly hadn't seemed like baby magic to him. Inari, however, seemed to find Pambut's reaction rather charming. You're not offended by that? Nico asked Tasha. My magic isn't what they're talking about, and you know it, she replied.
Oh, right.
Pambut said, suddenly worried.
You said you used science to do those tricks. That's so weird.
Nico's eyes flashed with alarm to hear the boy even begin to speak ill of science. Pamut, Jonas said warningly, don't insult science in front of Nico. He'll tear you to pieces. Say you're sorry, Kima muttered to her son. Pamut looked back at Nico skeptically, but Nico was now glaring at Jonas.
Sorry, Nico,
the boy said with more conviction than Twist suspected he meant. Whatever, Nico muttered on a sigh. The red fox in his lap nuzzled at Nico's chest comfortably, calling Nico to pet it again. He seemed somewhat soothed. Anyway, Inari said, as if nothing troubling had happened at all, so long as Brooks don't learn to employ anything stronger than my magic, your pretty airship in this island will remain undetectable to them. And if they don't even know to look for you here, all the better. You may all rest easy. Thank you for helping us, Twist said, meaning it deeply. Apologies. I can't imagine anywhere else we might hide from Rooks. Fae we can handle, but humans are much harder to deal with. Wow, Jonas breathed, looking stunned. That's actually true. When did our lives get this odd? Twist chuckled. The day I left London, I think. I think our lives being odd. I like our lives being odd, Mira mentioned. Twist looked at her for this, while Mira went on. It's ever so much more exciting. A sudden metallic buzzing sound startled Mira and paused her words. Every fox around them stared at Tasha sharply, their ears all standing to attention. Oh, excuse me, Tasha muttered, pulling her silver watch out of her pocket in her jacket. But that's the emergency alarm. She opened her watch and flicked the turning knob again with her thumb. A bright blue light filled her face as the soft sound of rain poured out of her watch. Pete, attention, all agents. A tinny and slightly obscured voice said from within the watch, clearly in mid-sentence. This is an emergency from agent to all agents. Locate and capture the crew of the airship Vimana. Location unknown. By any means necessary. Jonas let out a startled curse. Hush, there's more, Tasha said quickly. It's imperative. Arabelle Davis, a member of the crew, must be captured alive. All other members of the crew are to be brought to the nearest Rook holding without exception. Additionally, all members of the Gypsy Troop Alpha Zero One are also to be brought into holding. They are all assumed to be magically armed and dangerous. Treat their leader, known only as Mama, with extreme caution. Attention, all Rook agents. The voice began to repeat the orders again, word for word. And that, dear listeners, is where we're going to end tonight's reading. I thought this was all too good to be true. And I guess it makes perfect sense why Aiden would try to go for the Vimana crew, especially Arabelle, because as as established in book one, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's established early, Arabelle could find anything. If Arabelle is looking for something, she will find it because that is her site. But also using the gypsy camp. Way to pull the strings, Aiden, because we know Aiden do this. Way to pull the strings. And to also foster bad will. But that will be for another time. Everyone, thank you for joining this reading stream. I hope you enjoyed the story as well as the reading of the story. Assuming all goes well, we will have the reading stream again next Saturday, same time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And with that, again, if you enjoyed these stories, definitely consider buying books from the author, supporting the author the best way you can. And with that, I'm signing off. Again, happy Valentine's Day. I wish you all a wonderful evening, a wonderful day, or whatever time it may be for you. And I will see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other and be safe. Bye bye.